Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. So today I'm going to cover how to stay ahead of the evolving threat landscape and really kind of take an overview of how email threats have changed over the last kind of 5 years. So my name's Rob Anderson. I work in the SE team at Barracuda, and really I guess I wanted to cover something that we're all going through at the moment, and that's the challenge of working from home. So you may well during this during this webinar hear screaming children in the background, barking dogs. Yeah, unfortunately, children and dogs in the background will be something you're probably going to listen to throughout this. And thanks to the lovely people at Disney who released Frozen 2 just before the lockdown, you'll probably hear children singing the Frozen 2 songs as well. So I'm sure I'm not alone. But yeah, just to give you a brief warning that may be the case during this call. So we wanted to cover kind of the change of email threats. And we look at how Barracuda were founded. Over 15 years ago, as an email security vendor, we had our anti-spam hardware appliance, which sat at the gateway, and that's evolved over time. We now do it as a cloud service, and obviously constantly trying to evolve to keep up with the latest threats. So we added 0-day protection with our advanced threat protection engine, and again, that does a great job of making sure that unknown threats are being picked up and blocked. But unfortunately, that's not always good enough. We've seen, especially in the last kind of 3 years, a huge rise in social engineering. So they're no longer targeting the gateway; they're actually going straight for the mailbox. And there are a wide number of different attacks that you're going to see. Again, the kind of end goal for these is monetary reward and obviously to possibly compromise an account. So as I said, there are a huge amount of different attacks. And with our kind of email threats 2.0 and the release of our spear phishing protection, we've really tried to kind of stay on top of those and defend at the inbox level as well as the gateway. And that's not to say that the gateway protection isn't needed. Everyone needs it. The threat of spam and 0-day attacks, malicious links, that's never going to go away. That's never going to change. But what we're really saying is, we need that inbox level defense. From a prevention point of view, and that's really kind of where we started, again, at the gateway, in terms of archiving as well. So Barracuda have been doing archiving for a long period of time. We look to prevent the risk. But that, as that's grown, we actually go to the point of risk as well. So, things like service impersonation, end user training, doesn't matter what you have in terms of defense. Unfortunately, the weakest part of any business is going to be, the education around security and their staff. So, using things like simulation to test your staff and educate them to be better is something that we still need. Detection. So again, investment in detection for Barracuda is a constant. We're always looking to improve. We're always looking to get the best detection rates we can, whether that's things like account takeover, our introduction into conversation hijacking, and obviously things like brand spoof protection as well. So, again, we'll continue to add into this as we move forwards, but every day we're looking at improving our detection rates and obviously adding features and functionality in there to better protect you and your customers. And then response is something that we've really focused on in the last 2 years. So how we allow you to do post-delivery cleanup, password resets, and obviously triage user-reported emails. When we look at the anatomy of an account takeover, the end goal is monetization. So what's the return for the attacker in terms of what are they going to get back from the effort they put in? And things have changed. They're no longer sending out huge spam emails with a very small percentage of success. They're taking that time to investigate a business. They're looking on LinkedIn, on social media, to find out what a job role is, whether that person's in the office. So, again, for us, it's changed because they're really focused and targeted attacks. So step one's infiltration. Compromised credentials through phishing attacks or database breaches. We've all seen those phishing attacks. Your Office 365 account is full, for example. Click this link to free up space, or you're going to stop receiving mail. And then they get taken to a splash page that looks exactly like Microsoft. They provide their credentials, and unfortunately that means their account gets compromised. The reconnaissance side, again, watching and learning, it's not very often that an attack will kind of do anything straight away. They may well sit there for days, weeks, maybe even months, gathering information and understanding what they can do with that compromised account. And then obviously the final, is monetization. So whether that's launching internal or external attacks, distributing malware, trying to get kind of bank payments, and these can often lead to other social engineering attacks as well. So that's the kind of the flow of those. This has been a challenging conversation for Barracuda as a gateway email security provider, but traditional email security does fail at every step. And we realized that a number of years ago, which is why we've invested the time and the development into kind of adding additional layers of defense into our portfolio. Sentinel is what's come from that R&D, and it offers complete solutions. So we're looking to prevent the infiltration using context-aware AI that detects impersonation. We're looking to detect reconnaissance and harvesting by observing behavioral text and link anomalies. And then obviously we're looking to remediate using APIs to discover and delete those attacks. So, again, trying to make it as quick as possible. And then we're looking to remediate. We use APIs to discover and delete harvesting, account takeovers, and brand misuse. We leverage the Microsoft Graph API to ensure this is as quick and painless as possible. And that is the biggest thing when you're looking to remediate, is the speed in which you'll be able, that's the important thing when you're looking to remediate, the speed in which you're allowed to respond and recover. So as I said before, we're using context-aware AI. When we look at legacy protection, they often run on rule-based detection. Does it come from a bad or as I said before, we're using context-aware AI, and with legacy protection, there is some shortcomings, some gaps. It often runs with rule-based detection. Does it come from an IP with poor reputation? Does it come from a sender with a poor reputation? Does the name match the sender? Is the content safe? And using user behavior rules. How many rules do you need to create to actually make that accurate? And how often do you need to invest time to improve those rules and tweak those rules? And I guess the biggest point here is, how accurate are they when they're in place? When we look at Sentinel, with the context-aware AI, we're not reliant on rules. We're not asking you to create a rule set or constantly tweak and change that. We're learning unique communication patterns between users to understand how they communicate and how they kind of compose their emails. And we're creating a social network of each individual. That enables us to detect anomalies based on historical communication patterns, which means that we're making a decision on context, not on their rule set. Why this is important. So, again, spear phishing attacks are too complex to detect with a rule-based approach. It leaves you open and it leaves gaps. Again, using this API technology and our context-aware AI, it gives us highly accurate results. Fewer false positives, fewer false negatives, and it also allows us to be reactive versus a proactive approach. So why is this important? Spear. Fuck my life. Oh, hopefully it gives you a laugh, Soph. Why is this important? Spear phishing and business email compromise attacks are too complex to detect with a rule-based approach. We've already talked about how it's too time-consuming to use that rule-based method. We're giving you highly accurate results, so fewer false positives and fewer false negatives. And we're taking a reactive versus proactive. Just cut that bit out, so I'm going to skip it. Why is it different? Most systems are using rule-based detection that sits at the gateway, and it takes too long to build those rules. Instant response today, and speaking firsthand from when I used to work at an MSP, users don't always report attacks, and IT investigations take too long. That manual process of going through and searching for other recipients of that malicious mail, understanding where that mail's gone, and checking unconnected systems, can lead to tedious manual searches. And then from a response perspective, quarantining malicious emails takes too long. Going through your staff's inbox rules or your customers' inbox rules to really understand who else has been affected, what that attacker's trying to do to cover their steps. It's a time-consuming process, and when I had to go through it in a previous role, even when I'd been through that process, which in some cases took me an entire day, maybe even longer, I couldn't sit there and honestly, kind of hand on heart, say that I was 100% sure that I'd remediated that attack. Lack of information and tools results in a manual, inefficient, time-consuming process that can lead to further spread of attacks. If you can't guarantee you've got 100% of that malicious content removed, you're always open to being hit again. Allowing end users to report phishing attacks. So, we want to make things as simple for you and obviously for your customers as possible. Having a simple button they can press to report an email as a suspicious email. Again, it's an Outlook add-in, or they can do it on the web UI. So, we're not asking them to jump through hoops. Click on the message actions and submit as suspicious. So we've looked at how we used to do things, and obviously the time involved in that. We're now looking at how forensics and Sentinel can work together with email security and give you a really good, robust instant response. Identifying those is coming from employees or from your customers and users, and then obviously identifying those through Barracuda Insights. This is going to give you a map of where those threats are coming from. It's going to allow you to create instance and actually go through and run through that remediation. The next step, once you've found those emails or once they've been submitted, is being able to investigate. So giving you granular search functionality to look across your entire 365 tenant and obviously creating those instances, allowing you to kind of go through that process. And then the most important step is responding. So automatically sending alerts to users. Again, as an MSP, you want to be able to relay that you're doing a good job. You want to show that you're responding. So allowing you to automatically send out those alerts is really important. And then quarantining those malicious emails from a user's inbox. Again, we don't just want to show you they're there. We want you to be able to actually remove them from those internal users at the click of a button. So saving time on instant response, to give you an idea of kind of how this flows and how it works. You create an instant, it's going to pull the information through from the email, whether that's the sender, whether it's a subject or an attachment. You're going to go through this wizard and actually remove those messages from within the user's inbox, but also you're going to update your other solutions to protect you. Again, we don't want you having to sign out of forensics or Sentinel and then go into email security, or if you're using Content Shield, which is our web filtering platform, having to update that manually as well. It's time consuming. It leaves room for human error. We want this to be automated for you. So not only are you responding, but you're also proactively updating their defense across a number of different products. As I said before, Insights is going to show you where those threats are coming from. Maybe there's an email from Australia, for example, and it's something that you wouldn't expect to see. You can click on that in the map. You can see all the emails that are coming from that country. And then if you need to, you can create instance and respond through there as well. Excuse me. Obviously identifying malicious mail based on that geo-reporting. So as I said before, as you click into that country, it's going to show you the mail. It's going to let you view the mail to see if you believe it's suspicious or not, and then obviously create that incident. And as you flow through that incident, you're going to be able to update email security and Content Shield as well. Identifying users in need of training. I can't say how powerful this is. You know, it's very difficult as a service provider or as an IT admin to really understand and get the truth behind who has interacted with a malicious email. You know, whether it's for fear of getting in trouble, whether it's, you know, they don't want to kind of raise their hands and say they did it. If someone tells you they didn't click a link within an email, can you be sure that that's the case? Can you be sure they're telling the truth? And it's not to say that your customers are liars. It's simply to kind of highlight that, you know, for whatever reason, they may not come forward with all the information. Now, with forensics, again, we're going to show you users that have clicked on malicious links. We're going to show you who's responded or replied to that email. That allows you to identify users that need training. It may also identify machines that need to be, you know, scanned with your antivirus or rebuilt maybe. You know, you don't then have to run a scan across every single machine within that environment. You can actually be specific and see which ones really need that and which ones need it first. And again, just to touch on the blocking future attacks, I really think this is important. You know, if you're asking your IT team to, you know, remediate emails and sign into different platforms and systems to update your defense, it leaves room for human error. And it, you know, we all know that when you're on a help desk and you know, you're in the middle of something, a phone call comes in, you react, you answer that call. That could be an hour-long call. It could be longer. It could be a 5-minute call. But it still leaves that window, you know, where you may then forget to go back and update those systems. Allowing us to create those policies in email security removes that risk. And again, you can come into email security and use our geo-IP filtering or our language policies to update threats from a specific country or from a, you know, from a particular language. So the silver bullet, and this is something that you can use now, is what we call the email threat scan. Now, you don't need to be a Barracuda partner to use this. You can use it today. Obviously, it only works with Office 365. barracudamsp.com/free scan. This allows you to run an email threat scan on your own environment or your customer's environment. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that context-aware AI and we're going to go back and do a retrospective scan of their environment today. This is going to show you things like fraudulent emails. It's going to allow you to filter those by attack type. You can interact with those and actually see the content of that email to see why we flagged it as suspicious or fraudulent. It's going to show you users at risk. You know, again, it's unlikely that an attacker is going to target the receptionist, for example. They're going to go for someone with a job title which points to them having the ability to, you know, request money being transferred or actually, you know, do that themselves. There's a whole host of really useful information in here. It is a sales tool, but, you know, it's accurate. We're not, you know, glorifying this. We're not giving you information to make it look better, you know, worse than it is. If there's an email in here that we flagged as fraudulent, you can go to that user's 365 mailbox and, you know, do a search. It's going to find that email. We're pulling this directly from 365. It really kind of fits in well with the Barracuda MSP way of thinking in terms of you know, what we call the need. And this isn't the need from us. This is the need from your customers or from the MSPs that we deal with every day. And we really kind of build this out and go through that process. Now, gateway defense, as I said at the very beginning, is still required. You still need a system in place to prevent spam and malicious links, for example, to do your email encryption and obviously sandboxing of unknown threats. Encryption and DLP for secure messaging, you know, again, it's growing every day, the requirement for that. And then obviously archiving for compliance. So we're not just talking about dumping things in a PST or just sticking them in the cloud. This is an e-discovery platform. It's designed to allow you to be granular and really find that content that you're looking for. Resiliency, you know, ever since 365 launched and people removed that need for a physical server in their comms room, for example, there was the question around resiliency. You know, what happens if I delete a file? How far back can I go? You know, from a compliance perspective, again, do I have my SharePoint files, for example, backed up? And then email continuity, you know, whether they're still on Exchange, whether they're using 365 or G Suite, you know, what happens if that service goes down? You know, 10, 15 years ago, maybe, you know, email, we were trying to get people to use email and people didn't want to use it. Whereas now it's really the heart and soul of almost every business. what happens to your customer if they lose their ability to send and receive emails for 24 hours? How big an impact does that have? Obviously, inbox defense, which we've covered in depth, the context-aware AI to prevent against social engineering, brand protection with DMARC. We're not just enforcing it, we're giving you the reporting functionality. We're allowing you to deploy it in a kind of slow and stable process where we give you the reporting, we show you what's going on, we take you through the process of verifying what's sending as your customer's domain, and then we can go into a quarantine or block state. An account takeover defense, again, if an account gets compromised, allowing you to remediate that quickly and easily through a wizard, as opposed to that manual response that we talked about earlier. Web and content filtering. So I don't think there's ever been a time where web filtering's been more at the forefront than now. Businesses that have had their staff working in the office, they've been able to see what they're doing, hear what they're doing. That's gone. People are working from home. Maybe it's the first time they've ever worked from home. And business owners and companies may be conscious around how much work are they actually doing? What are they looking at online? Are they safe? Maybe links that they wouldn't normally click at in the office, maybe they're clicking on those because they're at home and they're not being monitored. So web filtering, endpoint protection with the content security, and obviously monitoring and filtering those roaming users. Doesn't matter where they are, doesn't matter what Wi-Fi they're on, for example. Allowing that machine to be safe online without restricting the user too much, again, is really important and something that we get asked for a lot. And then user awareness. So again, going into that end user security awareness training, with the phishing simulation and training. Again, I really think this is something that's going to continue to grow. Unfortunately, kind of in the past it's been, well, we've been hit, so now we need to educate. I think the aims of companies are changing, where actually they want to be proactive and educate their staff before an attack. So again, that's something that we get asked for on a regular basis. So that's the need as we see it, and that's based on feedback from you guys and from end users. We're not saying that every single customer you speak to is going to raise their hand and say, yeah, I have a need for all of this. If they do, then fantastic. But we think there'll always be 1, 2, maybe 3 things on here that your customers are asking for or looking for. And again, when we look at our product set, the resiliency and gateway defense is covered by essentials. That is our email security, our cloud backup, and our archiving product. Again, per user per month billing. The backup and archive are data free, so we don't charge you for data, which means that you can retain it, you can back it up for as long as you need to. It also means that you as the MSP don't have to constantly monitor data usage and worry about going over licenses. It's a per user per month cost. The licenses you pay for in 365, for example, are the licenses you pay for with us. So aliases, shared mailboxes, people that have left the business, will protect them, but you don't need to pay for them. Obviously, the API inbox defense is covered with Sentinel. Now, again, this is only for Office 365. I really like the fact that Sentinel is so quick and easy to set up. 5 minutes from start to finish, and you're good to go. The protection that you get from that 5 minutes, it really probably is the best 5 minutes you'll ever spend, in terms of IT. And I think the return for the customer and obviously for you guys as the MSP is huge. Web and content. So with Content Shield, again, that web filtering, that endpoint protection, whether they're in the office, whether they're on a beach, it doesn't really matter. And that's an agent-based protection. So again, Windows and Mac devices protected using Content Shield. And then the site security, the end user security awareness training is covered with Fishline. And the cool thing about this is we do it as a fully managed service. So, again, we're not asking for you as the MSP to build content or think up ideas. We're not asking you to invest the time to deliver that content. You provide us with an address book of users that you want to enroll. We then deliver the service for you. And at the end of each month, we give you a report, and your job is really to relay that report to the customer. We simulate an attack to 50 users. Of those 50 users, 10 users replied, forwarded it, clicked a link. We delivered them training, and of those 50 users, only 4 of them did it, for example. And that allows you to go back and and push in the right direction and get the right kind of education around your customers. And then the wrapper for this is forensics and incident response. So again, we have all these great products that sit at different points in terms of threat vectors, but actually bringing those together and allowing you to really see the benefit of having multiple Barracuda products is key for us. As I said before, we see a threat come through, it maybe gets flagged by a user, allowing you to remediate that through a 5-6 step wizard, but then also update your gateway defense from an email and web perspective is going to be huge. And I think the most exciting thing for me is that the development and roadmap for forensics is just nonstop. We're always looking to improve. We're taking partner feedback all the time. We're really driven to kind of grow this into something that every partner needs. And again, if anyone on this call wants to see a demo of any of these products, they want to talk through the roadmap and our plans for the future, please let me know. That's really it from me. I think we're going to open up for some questions. I just want to say a big thank you for giving up the time today. I hope you found it valuable. My email address is on there. So again, if you want to follow up with me or have any questions afterwards offline, it's rjanderson@barracuda.com. Obviously, I'm on LinkedIn. And as I said before, the email threat scan, highly recommend that you use it, barracudamsp.com/free scan. But now we're going to go over and I think we've got some questions.